this is Pam with Old Age Reboot. Last time I talked about finding purpose and how important it is for each of us to have purpose in our lives. Studies have shown, how that really adds not only to your emotional well-being in the present, but your longevity. So how can you not want to find purpose? I really focused on the ways that old age is a time for you to explore, learn new things you've wanted to do for many years perhaps, or that you did as a child and you haven't done in the interim, because you lived life. You had children, you had a job, you traveled, you were busy, really busy. You were busy giving to others. Old age is a time to give to yourself. That was really the emphasis of the last video. But I didn't mean that you couldn't still give to others. And volunteering, I thought, deserved its own moment here because it's been a big part of my career, both in terms of managing, recruiting, training, supporting volunteers, and as a volunteer in a whole wide array of situations and settings. Most recently, as an older adult, I volunteered with the hospital. What surprised me the most about that, and it shouldn't have surprised me, because it was daytime volunteering, everybody had gray hair. I don't know which program came up with this slogan. Senior volunteers keep the world turning. When you go to an agency or a program where there are a lot of volunteers, you'll see it. It's the gray brigade. But anyway, it was a good for me. I needed to get out of the house. My husband had had a brain injury added on to his other woes, and he slept late in the mornings. So it was perfect time for me to sneak out, get the dogs taken care of, get to the hospital, and do my time. Not only did I meet a lot of really cool older people, a lot of schools actually require community service, and some of those students, especially if they're older students, can do that during the day. So I met some very, very interesting and diverse younger people. There were also some young adult persons who were volunteering to give them an opportunity to practice their English skills. If you're thinking about volunteering, but you're not sure what you should do, I'd start with your own self-assessment, which I think is important, even if you know where you want to volunteer. Before you go and make that contact or fill out that application, just do a little run through on your own background. What are the skills you would bring to a volunteer setting? That'll help you pick out what type of position you're looking for, certainly. But sometimes you may have a whole set of skills that you honed finely in your career. Maybe you want to venture into something completely different. That's a possibility for volunteering, because you're not going in expected to be the expert. You can be a learner at the same time, or maybe just a companion. Maybe you've been behind a computer your whole career and you just want some one-on-one time with people, especially in terms of the volunteer opportunities for seniors helping seniors. Those are largely under the category, I would say, of companion. Just someone to listen to, someone who will be there every Wednesday, for an hour and a half, someone who will come to play cards or Scrabble. There's just so many options, but do your own little assessment of what is it I really want to do? What makes me the most happy and what doesn't make me happy? Then it helps you to start to refine what you're looking for as a volunteer opportunity. Volunteers are essential. When you do sign on as a volunteer with any program, it's not just something you're doing because it's fun. It's something you're doing it because it's fun for you, but it's serving a purpose for that agency. That's why I say volunteering for us as old people is a purpose with a purpose. The hospital where I volunteered, volunteers were an essential part of the institution. Think of every patient that was being discharged from outpatient procedures or their inpatient stay. If a nurse or a nursing assistant had to take them to their car and help them get in to the car, it would add on an incredibly large amount of money to pay people to do that. Nurses should be taking care of patients. At that particular agency, we went through the same initial training, which was a full day session with employees. At mine, I sat next to a cook who was going to be working in the hospital cafeteria and a paramedic who was part of the ambulance service. And there I was. And you know what? It made me feel like, well, I'm important. And you are important when you go in as a volunteer. So assessing what you have to offer and what you're looking for is important, because programs, they invest in you once you sign on. They help train you, they support you. You know, sometimes there won't be a good fit. You thought it would be great and it just doesn't work out. But it's important to take it really seriously from the very beginning. That's why I think doing a self-assessment of the skills you could bring, what your availability is, that's very important. And that sort of hung me up because I hadn't lived in a place where there was a heavy winter factor. I didn't like to drive in the snow and ice. Every time there was snow or ice, I felt anxious about going, or I called in and didn't go because I couldn't get my car over the snowbank. Then I felt guilty about not going. So in retrospect, I would pick probably an afternoon volunteer time that hopefully the roads would be clear. So you think through some of that ahead of time, I think really helps you to find the right fit, but it also reduces the amounts of retraining or wasted training. If you take on something and then you realize, oh my gosh, this just doesn't work for me. So try to do your screening seriously ahead of time. There are great places to look for volunteer opportunities. Volunteer Match is an online service where volunteers put themselves out there and agencies put out their volunteer opportunities. You can peruse those, see what might fit for you. AARP has a program called Create the Good. I love that because that's what this is about. It's about doing good, creating good in the world, adding to the positive energy out there by helping others. You may also have certain groups that you're already a part of. Maybe you care about an identified population that you want to support. Look for agencies that tend to have services for those folks. Ask them if they have volunteer opportunities. Look on the website if that's something you're able to do. Look around your neighborhood. Not all volunteering has to be formalized through an agency. You may have an older neighbor who's alone a lot, and you go over there with a plate of cookies once a week. My brother had a neighbor sort of adopted him. They would take him to their son's football games and they would bring him Sunday lunch. It meant the world to him. That's giving from your heart without the formality of an agency. So think broadly when you're thinking. Be clear about the details and what you're looking for and what you have to give. What do you want to learn? What would challenge you? What would make you happy? If you don't want to sit around a lot, then look for active opportunities where you're moving, whether it's pulling weeds or bringing meals from the cafeteria to someone in a hospital bed. You know, there's a whole range. Almost anything you can think of that you would like to do, you will be able to find an opportunity to make that happen. Keep the world turning, seniors, because it's good for us, it's good for the world, and it's good for the people who receive the gift of your time. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks very much. See you soon.